The GPS DairyCAST features the high-value insights of the GPS Dairy Consulting team's trusted advisors and the owners and managers from the elite dairy farms they serve. These conversations deliver on the GPS Dairy Consulting promise to inspire change and grow leaders.
Hello and welcome to the GPS DairyCAST. I'm Peggy Coffeen from the Up-Level Dairy Podcast, serving as your host. And on this GPS DairyCAST, we're coming to you from the 2024 GPS Leaders Forum. And I'm joined on this episode by GPS team member Andre Pereira as he sits down with one of the featured speakers from today, Ryne Braun from Ever.Ag, on the topic of cows to code, abandoning the lens of human encryption. Get ready to hear about computer visioning and artificial intelligence on this episode of the GPS DairyCAST.
Ryne, thank you so much for being here at Leaders Forum today, and thank you so much for a great presentation you gave us. If you could give us a little summary of what the presentation was about and what you talked about today so we can get started.
The main point I was trying to make was that computer vision is supposed to amplify the work that's already done on the farm, using the farmer's existing protocols and instincts. How do you accelerate that and then scale it out to your employees so that the intuition of the farmer is digitized and the employees can use that to take action?
Yeah, that was a very good comment and a very good drive into this vision side. So why vision? Why cameras and not all the sensors that we already have for cows walking, rumination, all these little sensors? Why is vision so important nowadays?
I think sensors still have their place, but when you manage a farm, you do that with your eyes. Like when you're looking at cows that are calving, that's a very visual task, something that when you see it, you know it. And that's why I think computer vision on dairy farms is just like the perfect fit. I know people always get concerned about cameras getting dirty, but we clean them maybe once a year, and the rest of it is just let the camera do its job. It's an eye in the sky when you're not there.
So only once a year is very, very impressive for cleaning your cameras, right? Sometimes we think that we have to clean them all the time. Man.
They're really up, in the apex of the roof, and the amount of dirt that we actually see on them is so minimal. Let's say bad climate, maybe it's a little more often, but it's typically our standard, 1 year or less.
So why is it better to have cameras instead of all these sensors? Is it more profitable? Is there an economical benefit? Is there a design benefit? Or what's the idea there?
So what I really find interesting is that the cameras, as soon as you put that cow in the pen, she's picked up and tracked. There's no jewelry to attach to the cow. There's nothing you have to connect like this. This is her new neck tag number to a sense hub type thing. And the other thing is when you put a cow inside this pen, one camera covers 100 cows. It's not a one-to-one like a sensor where each cow needs her own. It's really scalable.
Wow, very interesting. So it's actually very simple and very, very scalable, right? As we transition from what the economy of dairy producers is transitioning to, right? From a small farms to bigger farms with a lot of things to do, right? How does it learn? How does the camera learn what to do, and how does that work? Just give us a good idea of that.
Sure. We started with synthetic data generation, and from there, we actually had our pilot farms as the next step. Those pilot farms, we were uploading the videos every day. So we had thousands and thousands of calvings, and we have an annotation team. And when they look at those annotations, they mark everything. They mark all of the calving symptoms they can see, the calf, the cow, and any people or things in the environment. So we're talking hundreds of thousands of images that people manually annotated, kind of like when you have a Google CAPTCHA and it asks you, is this a bike? We're asking our annotators every time on every image, is this a calf? They feed those into a large model, which we then start slowly introducing real calving videos into there, and then we compare them. This one we said a calving, the computer said yay or nay, and then we give it a grade. And it just keeps doing that over and over. And now that we have commercial dairies on maternity, all of these act as a neural network, and one farm can train another farm based on accurate calvings. How we further kind of train our models is inside of our system. we have two buttons. You can say good alert or too soon. And every time they do that, it doesn't impact the model greatly, but it gives it a little nudge. And it says, nope, bad model, and go back the other way.
Tell us a little bit more about the advances in this technology then. So you guys are working on it. You're just starting with training the data, right? Do you need a specific type of technology on cameras, on computer processing? How much data is collected? How does that work?
So we made the decision to use a completely closed system. We provide the edge nodes on site that do all of the processing. We provide an antenna and cellular network, so we're not relying on the farmer's Wi-Fi. So basically, we bring the whole kit, and the farmers provide the power and obviously a place to mount the cameras, but it's all inclusive, just so when we need to do support, the first question is not on the farmer's network, their Wi-Fi. It's all in our control, so we can quickly solve problems that might arise. Like if a camera perhaps gets broken, like we can tell exactly where it is and we'll replace it.
So the end goal here, from what I understand, is you're trying to get a producer to not drawn in data, right? And actually be able to swim around it and understand what is the important things that I have to be looking for instead of having individual data for thousands of data points that most of them are actually normal and good, but you want to see what's not normal and how to make it better. So it's very interesting. So how else do you train it? Do you have some internal data? You talked at your presentation about synthetic data, and I just didn't understand what that meant compared to the real world data.
The simulations are definitely not as good as the real world data, but it does help give us the frameworks and start expecting things that we can see. We don't want to develop this so we can only support one cow breed. Like we don't want to say only Holsteins. So that's why when we're able to reduce the amount of variation it sees in the field for the first time, we can make it more accurate at the beginning, hopefully leading to better results. So we do make up fake data, or we'll use data that's irrelevant. Let's just say a normal freestall barn and try to have it say, are any of these cows calving? And if it says no, we know that's correctly. So training it that way is really productive.
How big of a location can you actually scan with those cameras, and where do you actually put those cameras in the farm? What's your priority there?
So right now we're installing cameras in freestall barns. We usually do it in the apex of the roof, and our cameras look down at the cows. For feed, we use a fisheye camera that's 360, and we can see both sides. We can see inside the pens on both, and then we can see the feed lanes as well. Maternity, they're more straight on cameras, and we can cover 40 feet and see all the animals in that area. So we do try to cover every single stall with a little overlaps to make sure that we don't miss anything. We don't want to miss any area of the barn.
Very interesting. I really like the comment you made in your presentation. I was taking notes, I was actually doing it, that the computer vision, it does not get tired. It pays attention. It recognizes the cow having issues before we actually could do it. And you compare that to, we have some farm managers and farm owners that they work really hard. They work hard every day. It's impressive how much work they put on. But, sometimes you just miss something, or you get tired and you're not looking with fresh eyes at something. So how do you think this will help farmers in the future?
Yeah, I mean, there's an anecdote where they had a farmer body condition score all of his cows one day when he was tired, and then the next day they asked him to do the same cows again, and they were completely different scores. So humans are just so subjective. And the other part of it is that the cows are animals of prey. So when a human is around, they act a little bit different. They'll hide symptoms of calving if they're able to, just so they don't have this predator interfere in their life. So when we're looking at these cows and a human is there, they're completely different than when the human's not. And you can see that on your own security cameras. But I think I guess it's a pretty new aphorism, but the let cows be cows is really the best way to be observing them when they don't know somebody's watching. So the tired eyes is one thing, but then just continuity of the animal's behavior without interruption by people, I think, is so important.
How do you think this could scale into some AI, artificial intelligence, right? There's a big talk about AI nowadays. Everybody's talking about it. I'd say only 10% of it is actually real talk. 90% of it is just let's talk about AI.
Yeah.
But how do you think this camera technology, this vision technology can translate into using AI to actually facilitate farmers' lives?
I think the more we train this, where we're recognizing a cow, we see the cow, and then you record something that says, oh, I'm dosing her with milk fever, the cameras can start to learn, okay, this is the symptoms this farm says lead to milk fever. And the cameras and the AI could actually backtrack what they saw the day before, 2 days before, and then start pre-diagnosing animals with these conditions that you've been looking for way faster than we can. Using AI and the data you're already putting in your databases really to create your own generation of AI, I think is going to be huge.
I think it's very interesting. So I was talking to a very progressive farmer not too long ago about AI, and he was making a comment. He said, when can we actually use AI to help our lives, for example, for a herd manager? So his idea is, I'm just going to give you the idea quick, is you have the software giving us the data. Okay, there are some sick cows in certain pen. 2 of the pens are out of feed. There are other things going on at the farm, right? And what the farmer wanted is he wants to get to the farm and get a text from an AI software, whatever that is, to say, here's where you should focus right now in the next couple hours on your work to manage the farm and to actually get the cows to the right space and go from there. So he was like, when are we going to get that text? I want to get that text. What do you think?
So we're actually working on that as well. We have another product called My Dairy Dashboard, where previously we just thought throwing a bunch of eclectic KPIs on a dashboard was just the best way to manage. That's when dashboards were all the rage before AI. So now that's what we want to do. We want to take all those KPIs, scan them, use something like ChatGPT to look at, okay, what is the biggest deviation in this moment, and prioritize that. Because you're right. Otherwise, it's just whack-a-mole all day, problem here, problem there. But the big problem might not be what you're focusing on. So that's a really good idea.
Yeah, it is. I with these farms, one thing that I like to ask them is to have the herd manager every morning. He knows which reports exactly to look at and bring them up from the data he gets from all the sensors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bring those reports up and say, okay, what am I going to do next? What's my morning routine today? How many cows am I going to treat? Who am I going to treat? Which cows am I going to separate from the parlor, right? But as we automate that with vision, I think that's going to be, that's the future, right?
Yeah. And then the big thing with vision is that you can collect that footage that was of interest. So when you say, okay, this cow is sick, they can pull up that clip, and in 5 seconds, they can see what the camera saw and then either confirm or say that wasn't accurate.
What have you seen so far that brought value to the farm?
The biggest thing that we see with our system of looking at the behavior of the animals is when they're out of pen. And we can create sort of a Gantt chart where we have the overlaps of out of pen time and seeing when cows are being brought into the holding area too early, or somebody brings the cows in and then they go on a lunch break. So of course you can have the timestamps from the parlor, but when we're able to show this sequential timeline of out of pen and you see how much overlap it is, we've had farmers that are really, really well-run farms be like, there's no way that pen is out for 45 minutes. We show them the raw footage of our data, and sure enough, and that was a huge, huge achievement that just nobody knew was a problem.
GPS Dairy Consulting goes beyond nutrition by offering tools and resources, broad multidisciplined experience, and a collaborative philosophy across a range of consulting services that will make your business more successful. How will GPS consultants do that? By collaborating with you and your team to solve challenges and create successes while achieving sustainable and profitable results, by fostering personal growth and leadership development, and by inspiring continuous change and improvement in your people, systems, and results. GPS Dairy Consulting LLC will go beyond nutrition to help you achieve your most challenging goals. Learn more and connect with a GPS consultant at gpsdairy.com.
Do you think this type of technology can actually be scalable to other areas of the farm? Let's say the feed center, for example, and try to minimize waste, minimize shrink, or any other problems there?
Absolutely. I think for our Feed King product, we do want to go to the feed kitchen as part of the gamification that we do there, because when they fill the bucket too full and they have spillage, or like you said, they're having shrink. I think the other big one is affirming that the ingredient that they say is being loaded is actually what's being dumped in the bucket, and not that they had something left of another ingredient. And, they're cheating a little bit, putting that old one in that doesn't match. Like, it's not that you don't trust them, but you need to verify, the activities. That old saying, trust but verify.
Yeah, well, it's all about making sure that the job is done right. And everybody wants to do a good job. Sometimes they just need some guidance on how to do that, right?
Yeah, sometimes when the shortcut is, just easier and you have 3,000 cows to feed, you just make a little error.
What about parlor efficiency? Do you think that the technology is also scalable to parlor efficiency and try to help us understand if that specific parlor could be more efficient, if there's any way we can make it better? Not only talking about a milking parlor, but also a rotary parlor. For example, with the turns per second, how many cows per second can it hit? Do we have efficiencies there? Do you think the system can scale into that?
So another company called Cattle Care, they're really doing a lot of computer vision in the parlor. And I think a lot of their metrics are employee SOP based, but they also have the power to do that. How many employees can prep a cow in this amount of time? And hopefully they're able to create real analytics on what your actual milking routine is and what's happening in your parlor, and then try to get those two as close as possible. So they're really a good company that's working on that.
So what do you think are the best ways to be more accurate about this data and to prevent errors, or what are you working on for accuracy to improve it?
The biggest thing we need is more farms on the system, more variants of barn designs and cows and environments and all of those things. The more training images we have, like, the faster this goes. And that's why we're trying to create like minimum viable products for this nascent technology, using things like gamification and very specific topic driven problems like maternity. But the end result is, okay, you have all of these cameras. Now we can start training the system to do estrus detection and health events, but you need to have a baseline somewhere, and that baseline has to provide value so people are able to commercially validate it. Like, it can't just be a bunch of pilots for 5 years and it's just funded that way. It has to be incremental. And I think that's really the challenge. Hence the synthetic data as a backup, but nothing beats, being in every barn and looking at every single cow every day.
So what have you seen so far that is the accuracy of your system? Let's say when I walk around a farm, sometimes I make mistakes and I'm trying to write down what the number of that cow is, right?
Yeah.
What would you say is the accuracy of your data?
It's really hard to give a single number, like, across all of our farms. Like, some farms will be accurate all day, and then at night they might have red lighting, and it adjusts the algorithm. So I don't have like a single number, but there are times they say AI hallucinates. Like, we might look at some piece or a dog walking through the barn and we might say, oh, small cow, small cow. But those are the things that we try to catch and then push the model back and say, no, not a cow. So that's really our challenge. Every day the models are learning and training, so it's not a consistent number.
Is there any fear from your team about mistakes that the system could make that could cause, big problems or big economical loss?
Absolutely. I mean, the more you trust the system, as soon as that system goes down or something like that, like, you might not know how to revert to your own old practices. So yeah, absolutely. I think we just need to be really clear that sometimes the hallucinations can cause a false alert. But that's where I think the video clips, for the farmers to review as a backup is also very important. So it's not just what the computer saw, but what you see and feel. So on our maternity system, like, we send the alerts and then they have a 30-second video to see all the calving activities that we saw, and they can go, yes, I believe that, and go get her.
I think I really like your comment, because it just tells us that any of these systems, they're not going to replace a good cow person yet, right? And a good farmer that takes care of their cows and knows how the cows should look like and how things should look like. It's pretty much irreplaceable, at least with the level of technology we want for now, I think.
Yeah. And the thing is, you still get to look at the cow, whereas like sensors or just reports on dairy comp, like you're turning all the cows into just a number. And I think that's where we start losing, our fun on the farm, because we're cow guys and we like to look at cows. So here is, more visual, as computer vision is really easy to put, into an image.
What would you say, as this technology is just starting, we're witnessing the birth of this technology, right? What would you say is a key takeaway for dairy farmers, but also for consultants as well, on where you want to see this technology be developed and be used by farmers?
Yeah. I think that's where, like, maternity, I believe, is a really underserved part of the farm technology-wise. And I think that's where start looking at, do you have a problem that maternity warding could potentially solve, or any other computer vision platform? But if it is something that can help your farm and it's still not the core system of record, like you said, it's a very nascent technology, but if it's a tool that can really help in a specific area, like try to apply it, that would be what I think, instead of waiting for the all-in panacea of computer vision needs to do everything at once before I invest in it. I just don't think that's a realistic goal, in our timeline.
Well, Ryne, thank you so much. This was enlightening to see how the future of the technology is coming, what the future of dairy farming is going at, which is, let's make it more efficient, let's delete what's not needed, and let's start optimizing what we can, right? Because as we scale, as we make bigger and bigger farms, and we scale, we cannot draw in data. We have to swim around and learn how to swim on it. So we really appreciate your time here at Leaders Forum. It was very enlightening, and we all appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
You just heard from GPS team member Andre Pereira, as well as Ryne Braun from Ever.Ag, here from the 2024 GPS Leaders Forum. I'm Peggy Coffeen, serving as your host from the Up-Level Dairy Podcast, and thank you for listening to this GPS DairyCast.
The GPS DairyCast features conversations that deliver on the GPS Dairy Consulting promise to inspire change and grow leaders. If this GPS DairyCast has you looking for more ways to become an elite dairy producer, find more information in our show notes on how you can add a GPS advisor to your team.